What I want to say to the Minister, and I know you're a novelist yourself in your past history, if Sean O'Casey were writing today, you know, people like the Covey, they'd all be struggling artists, because really they would be the people at the bottom of the heap on less than the minimum wage. The data is there for you. Now, artists shouldn't have to look to the minimum wage, they should be looking to a living wage. The second reason he'd be writing about people being in tenement-style accommodation is that the artists that we met recently at the forum, which our colleague Deputy Smith helped to organise, they basically can't look forward to any security in relation to housing. And some artists now are spending about 80% of a very small income on housing. You are the Minister for Culture. To be honest, it's sad to be talking about a social welfare scheme for artists. The Art Minister should actually be addressing the issue of artists' employment and not just passing it on to social welfare, which is a different department for a different purpose. I know people are glad with something from there. Sorry, and can I just finish on this? Of the 5 million given to the Arts Council, 3.75 million was a reallocation, so the real increase is 1.25 million.
Yeah, I think I should remind both deputies in the first instance in relation to the Arts Council's own press release in relation to the budget. Deputy Boyd Barrett said that it was a miserable increase. And I think, you know, what they have said, first of all, is that they welcome it is an increase, it's not a cut. It is 5 million. And, you know, obviously the commitment that the Taoiseach has given to double funding by 2025, we're still on the trajectory to do that, and we still intend to do that. But we're all aware of the fact that this was a budget that was not a normal budget in normal circumstances. And under those circumstances, the Arts Council have accepted that. So I think they're the people best placed to discuss this. I'm satisfied that the 80 million that we secured this year, which is the highest level in over a decade, was actually a positive rather than a negative. So I don't think we should try and mislead people in that regard. In terms of our reputation, you mentioned our international reputation. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's really important. Our artists speak volumes in terms of our global reputation. You know, by the fact that I did write a novel, I understand myself how difficult it is people to earn a living. I couldn't have given up my job myself just to write books. So it is something I'm acutely aware of, but I think it's facetious to say that the social welfare scheme doesn't assist people, because it does.
Minister, 4 years after the Taoiseach's commitment, we have made about a 15-16% increase in arts funding, but it's still at 0.1%, right? So we're nowhere near on trajectory to double arts funding. In People Before Profits budget submission, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've actually allocated a doubling of the arts budget, which would have enormous benefits, by the way, for this country, both economically, socially, as well as for artists. So I don't really accept that the miserable fight, and of course the Arts Council, what are they going to say? They're dependent on your funding. They're not going to say anything too loudly against you. The National Campaign for the Arts expressed very considerable disappointment at the increases. And if I just a quick mention as well of film crew, Minister, who I've raised repeatedly, right? We need to do something about the fact that 80 million euro is going into film every year and nobody has any security because of the DAC structure through which that money is filtered. Something needs to be done to address that, to give some sort of income and employment security to film crew, but more generally, we need to look after our artists.
Culture Minister, we expect you to be a fighter for artists who genuinely are struggling to cope with low pay, poor terms and conditions, sporadic work, and in particular are struggling to be able to rent spaces in which to carry out rehearsals and to do other artistic work, and also struggling to hold on to art spaces, but also to struggle in terms of accessing rent at a reasonable rate. Now, you seem to have decided that these conditions for artists, who are the backbone of the whole artistic concept of Ireland, you know, I mean, a minister is neither here nor there. It's the working artists who make Ireland a country with a calling card and reputation that's so positive in relation to the arts. Why can you not champion a living wage and affordable housing for artists? I would think that is absolutely within your remit and any concept of a Minister for Culture.
Very much, last component. Minister, you've said quite a number of times here today about the Arts Council being happy with their budget, but I have to tell you that on the day of the budget, in an interview with the new chairman of the Arts Council, Dr. Kevin Rafter, he expressed his hope of a 10% funding rise, so he must have been bitterly disappointed. Minister, I'd have to say research earlier this year by Theatre Forum, whom we had in here in Leinster House, their research showed the pay and conditions for performing artists showed that a third of artists earn less than the minimum wage, and that working in the performing arts is characterised as poor working conditions and precarious employment. They have no healthcare, no job security, no childcare, no maternity leave, no pension. Minister, you've got to do something for them.
Yeah, just to say, I never said the Arts Council were happy. I said that they welcomed it under the difficult circumstances of this particular budget. And just in relation to the report that has been quoted earlier, it should be noted that this category is much wider than just the arts sector. It also includes gambling and betting activities, as well as sports, amusements and recreation. I want to commend Deputy White Barrett, though, for doing a policy initiative in the first instance, because Labour haven't done, Deputy Burton hasn't produced a policy document as yet in any form or manner. But just to say as well, just to finish, sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Deputy, just to say the Commission's recommendations, I was just going to answer your question in relation to the national minimum wage. The Commission's recommendations to date have been accepted by Government, resulting in an increase in the national minimum wage between January 2016 and January 2019 from $8.65 to $9.80 per hour. And the legislation in relation to the setting of the national minimum wage has existed since the year 2000. But suffice to say, I take all your comments on board. I think this particular government, and particularly since I have become a minister, I have increased the capital and increased the current funding to arts, and particularly at a very difficult time. And I think that has to be acknowledged. And I hope that we'll be able to do further and give more funding to the Arts Council and indeed bring up other measures such as the % for art and the social welfare scheme into the mix in policy formation, because I do think artists have a difficult job to do, and they should be encouraged and should be supported in any way that they possibly can be.